It's about halfway through the movie, and George Bailey edges closer to the edge of the bridge. He inches closer and closer, his lip bleeding from an earlier run-in with the husband of his kids' teachers. He cannot take life anymore. It's been too hard. You may ask yourself, what brought him there? Well, it's a long time in the making. See, George was built for more. From a young age, he knew that he was built to make a difference. Big dreams, travel the world, build skyscrapers, plan cities, build aircraft, airfields. The little town of Bedford Falls, it could not contain him. George's father runs the local building and loan. He's responsible for helping the little people of the town. The little people of the town escape and be able to afford homes of their own. The business is not much, but what it does is it provides homes and money so the people do not have to be under the power of the local banker, Henry Potter. He's the owner of most of the town, and he charges exorbitant amounts of rent for rundown apartments. Although the building and loan is the passion of his father, it is not George's. George wants to get out and change the world. He wants nothing to do with a small town mindset. He needs to be out in the world. He was built for more. Or was he? Out of a favor of his dad, he agreed to work at the building and loan for a few months. But have you ever noticed that life has a way of turning a few months into a few years, maybe a few years into a lifetime? And after his father's fatal stroke, George had to take over the building or loan or have the business dismantled and the town overrun by Potter. And he couldn't let that happen. His only choice was to take the money that he had saved for a European trip and give it to his brother and send him to college in hopes that when he came back, he would run the family business. But as months became years and his brother returned home after a college graduation, he returns home with a new bride and an offer from his wife's father to a lucrative job in the research industry. Harry, George's brother, vows to turn it down and says, "For all you've done for me, George, I will stay here and I will run the company." But George could not let one more person get stuck in this small town. And he refuses his brother's offer, and he's stuck again. Life starts to turn around. George meets the love of his life, Mary. They have kids. They have a great honeymoon that is planned. Their escape as they go to see the world happens on the same night as the great bank crisis. And customers show up at the building and loan after the bank has run out of money. They're here to get money from the building and loan, and the only opportunity they have to stay in business is Mary's love for the people of the town. She takes out an envelope with all of the honeymoon money and passes it out to customers one by one until there's nothing left. They can stay in business, but there's no world travel. Stuck again. Over the years, the building and loan allows many families to build great family homes, to start lives for themselves. The town has changed, but George remains stuck. To rub salt in the wound, one of his friends from high school makes it big and comes back begging George to go on a vacation with him. Come and see Florida, him and Mary, and go see some part of the country. But because of his family and responsibilities, he cannot escape. He is stuck. In the eyes of the town, George Bailey is the most respected person in the town. But through his own eyes, he is the biggest waste of potential and talent there ever has been. George's breaking point comes on the day that the town is preparing to honor his brother's accomplishments, a World War II war hero. Again, another person that George has supported who has left his little town to accomplish big things. And during a routine bank deposit, George's uncle, who runs the business with him, loses $8,000 at the time where the bank auditor is showing up for the annual audit. George knows he's stuck. When the bank books do not match up, George will be the one holding the wrong tab. He will be sent to jail. No world trips, no skyscrapers, just a wasted life. He's given his life to this stupid little town, and he knows that he has no future. And his family is in jeopardy because with him in jail, there'll be no one to provide. The only thing he has is a $15,000 life insurance policy. He's worth more dead than alive. And he inches to the edge of the bridge. The only way that he can provide for his family is through his own death. We may not be on that bridge. We may not be on that bridge, but as we go through life, would we say it's wonderful? Would we say it's wonderful? Or have we ended up like George? There are good things happening around us, but because we are focused on something further, something we want more than the great things around us, we miss out on them. We miss out. We don't see them because it's not what you planned. You had bigger dreams. You could do something better, and you're just stuck here. Your family might be good, but man, you were going to have a career. You were going to be a big shot. When you get there, it was going to be a whole lot better. For so many of us, we think about there. When I get there, it'll be better. If you're younger, you're thinking, all right, when I get out of school, when I get there, it's going to be better. For us getting older, it's when I retire, it's going to be better. When I get there, I'm going to have time to do my own thing. Or maybe it's when I have that baby boy. Whatever it is, when I get there, it'll be better. But when we strive for there, we miss the here. We miss the here. I remember so many years of my life just thinking, when I get out of high school, when I get out of college, when I start teaching, and I'll never forget my second year of teaching, I was there. That's what I wanted. I had a great group of kids, and I hated it. It was horrible. If I could have done anything else, I would have at that moment. What I want to tell you today is do not try so hard to get there that you miss here. We focus so much of when I get through this, and I get there, it's going to be good. But here's the problem. When you get there, it becomes a here. It just becomes here. And there's something else you got to strive for. And then there's the worst part, is everywhere you go, there you are. No matter where you go, you drag yourself along. So if you're the problem, if it's your outlook, if it's what you're thinking, wherever you go, you're still there. Now you're thinking, I'm so glad I came this morning, Brian. So you could tell me how bad life is and how I should look at things differently. You're welcome. You're welcome. But let's keep diving into this. The disciples never felt like this, right? The disciples were following Jesus. They gave up their jobs immediately. They were there. They were following the Messiah. They had this great purpose in life, right? There was no question. They were cruising along. They were doing great things. They were there when we read in John 10:10. As Jesus tells the Pharisees, the disciples were right there, and Jesus says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And the disciples are back there like high-fiving each other going, yeah, I got it to the full. I'm hanging out with Jesus every day. My life is so good. And they're going from town to town, and they're watching him teach with this amazing authority. And they're healing people. And then even cooler, Jesus is like, hey, go and teach. You go and tell people about me. You go and do these things. And you're like, whoa, this is better than anything I ever thought would happen. They are living life to its fullest. I know each and every one of them is like, man, this is a wonderful life. I love this. And then Jesus is arrested. Jesus is crucified. Jesus is dead. Can you imagine following Jesus every day? Even with all the misconceptions they had, and they didn't fully understand what they were doing, they were sitting there going, this is the greatest thing ever. I bet they felt happy about everything day after day after day that they saw what they were doing with Jesus. And now, I bet they're feeling pretty dumb, pretty depressed, like, I guess I go back to fishing. Can I be a tax collector again? Like, I didn't really put my 2-week notice in, Dad. Can I go back to the old family job? And then, the greatest shock in their life on the third day, he rose again. He's alive. He eats with them. He teaches them. He appears to many people. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine they're sitting here going, this guy is amazing. Like, he died. I know he was dead and he's alive now and he's eating with us. Like, nothing is going to stop us now. What is going to happen? If we thought it was cool before he hung on a cross, it is going to be even better now. And then he goes, hey, hung out with you for 40 days. Now I got to leave. I got to go. And I believe his disciples were again going, wait, we've just gotten there. This was going to be good. And then Jesus, just before he ascends to heaven, we have something recorded that I believe is the key to a wonderful life. We see it in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18 through 20. It says, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Before we go any further, let's pray together. God, I thank you for this time that we have, that we can spend in your word. Lord, as you talk about making disciples, I ask you to open our hearts and our minds to what that means, how we can go out and change the world because of your word and your love and your forgiveness. God, be with each and every one of us today that we can take something as a change as we walk out of here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So half joking, half serious, I called this talk, Is It a Wonderful Life? As we end 2018, it's an honest question. Are you living a wonderful life? If you're a follower of Jesus, or if you're here just trying to figure out what in the world that actually means, I believe this verse is the key to a wonderful life. When I grabbed my Bible, this isn't my Bible, but it was a Bible that I found in the back, and I look at this part, from the beginning of Acts to the end of Revelation, I look at people who have chosen to live their lives following this verse. And though they had highs and lows, and some were beaten and some were killed, they didn't turn their back on it. They kept going through it. And I believe it is the key to a wonderful life. And though they made mistakes and they had to have people that knew more say, hey, maybe not, they lived a wonderful life. So let's keep going. I want to start at the end of this verse. I know it sounds weird. We're going to go backwards. But it works if you go backwards. So let's start with the end. I am with you always to the very end of the age. In order to live a wonderful life, we cannot forget this. God never leaves us. We're never alone. Simply stated, Psalm 139, O Lord, you've examined my heart and you know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel, when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say, even before I say it, Lord. If we stop there, super easy to go, that's God being really upset that he knows what I'm going to say before I say it out loud. That's God knowing my thoughts and going, Brian. Or, hey, I know when you stand up or sit down and you've been sitting down for a really long time, let's get up and start doing something, right? But if you keep reading, it says, you go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. You see, God is always with you, and it's not a, hey, I'm going to kick your butt. It's, my hand of blessing is on you. I know what's going on. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're struggling with, and I am here. God never leaves us. He walks before us as a guide, beside us as companionship, behind us to urge us on. He's there to pick us up, and he's here to help us live a wonderful life. If you want to live a wonderful life, no matter what you're going through, never forget that he is with you. He is in the midst of every situation going on in your life. Keep going towards the beginning more. Number 2, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. Here's my butt kicker for the day. I apologize. It can't be all nice and happy. In order for us to teach, we have to learn. If you want to live a wonderful life, and it says that we are teaching people to obey everything I've commanded you, we have to learn. We have to learn. God is always with us, but are we meeting with him? Are we reaching out to him? I believe this is one of the areas where many of us lack when it comes to living a wonderful life. We don't learn to follow him. See, we learn about Jesus and we go, man, I need forgiveness. I'm a mess. I'm going to follow him. Well, I'm going to ask for forgiveness. I'm going to ask for forgiveness because I need forgiveness. Changing Jesus? That's hard. Talking to you every day. What if you tell me I got to stop doing something that I don't want to stop doing? Maybe you're going to tell me to start doing something that I don't want to start doing. What if I have to change, God? Man, it's amazing. And I don't say this disrespectfully. I want you to hear my heart on it. So many of us follow Jesus. We put our faith in Jesus right at the beginning, which is an amazing thing because what that does is it takes us from being dead to being alive. But then we're totally cool with being infants. We have no problem being an infant. We have no problem saying, Ryan, if you're teaching on Sunday, you better be good because I'm not opening my Bible for the next 6 days. So you better get it going so I know what's going on. Man, you better be praying for me because I'm not myself. In real life, would you ever be okay being solely dependent on someone? Come on, most of us in this room went through our teenage years already, right? We're not cool with that. No, I don't need you to do this, Mom. Come on, I'm an adult now. Oh, I was so dumb back then. I'm a little smarter now. We need to continue to grow. We need to continue to grow. And I know this whole idea of teaching people is scary because what if they ask a question that you don't know the answer to? It's okay. It's okay if you don't know the answer. If you read the Bible and it convicts you of something, it's okay. Learn and teach people together. You learn and you teach. It's fine to say, I don't know all the answers. But I know this. I know some of this. I can find this for you. Let me ask somebody. Again, the same part of this Bible is all people trying to follow Jesus and messing up a little bit and needing somebody that knows a little bit more, telling them what to do. Hey, you're doing great here, but here, it's amazing. But I also want to know this. You don't have to know everything. 1 Peter 3:15. Love this verse. But in your hearts, regard Christ the Lord as holy. Be ready at any time to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Now, before I go any further, I know if my wife is taking notes, she's going, Brian, these verses are not in there. Yes, I sent those on Thursday, and if you know me, I wrote until about 11 o'clock last night. So, if you need any verses or anything, please send me an email. I'll send them out to you. I have them all together now. And she's like, it's my husband teaching. I'm not taking notes anyways. It's fine. I don't need to learn from him, that guy. Man. But here we go. Let's grab the end of that. It says, Anyone who asks for a reason for the hope that is in you. For the hope that is in you. Did you get that? It's the hope that's in you. It's not the hope that's in me. See, if someone asked Drew for his story about the hope that's in him, Drew's story would have a little Greek in there. There would be some history, and there would be a whole bunch of verses. In my story, there would be some verses. There definitely would not be any Greek. And there would be a whole lot of, hey, before I followed Jesus, my life was like this. And then I followed Jesus and my life was like this. And this is what happened, and I'm going to go back and forth, and I'm going to talk about how Jesus has changed my life with some verses. I don't have history. I don't have architecture. I don't know. I don't care. It's my hope. And your hope is different too. The way that God moves in your life is different too. And when we get to learning, it has to be different too. Raise your hand if you love reading. Raise your hand if you love reading. Love reading. Okay, put your hands down. I don't like you guys as much. But if you don't like reading, raise your hand. Yeah, did you know they have this amazing thing called an audio Bible? Like seriously, it's been out there for like 20 years now. We should start using it. We really should. Like if you don't like to read, you don't have to. You can listen to it. You can listen to it. You can listen to a whole chapter. You can do all sorts of things. You can totally listen to it. And I'm going to tell you, if you're learning, please listen to it. If you're not going to read it, listen to it. If you have our app and you're deaf, you can actually watch people sign it, which is super cool. Or if you know sign language and you're not, and you can hear, and you just want to do that because you're cooler than I am, Marissa. It's awesome. But see, you need to be ready for the hope that's in you. We're asked to share our lives. We have to keep learning and teaching people. Do not be okay with staying in the same spot you are. Because this is what happens. Don't you get frustrated when you go, why do I always struggle with that? Why is that the temptation that comes here? Well, guess what? We haven't learned how to move through that with God. We've stayed an infant maybe. Maybe we're teenagers. We're still a little rebellious. I don't know. But we need to keep learning and teaching. Part 3 of this verse says, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So here it is. We're learning and we're teaching and we're sharing our lives and Jesus at the same time. I love There's a story of a man who is possessed by many demons. He says his name is Legion because he's possessed by many demons. And he's in the cemetery. And he's like, they bind him up by chains in the cemetery, but he's so strong that he breaks out of them. And he's cutting himself with rocks. I imagine the kids that live around the town, they go out to the cemetery and they try to get as they can to this guy, right? You can see this. And they're afraid of him, but they're amazed by him. Like, what is wrong with this guy? And they sneak up and he turns and they run away. But see, Jesus comes by one day. Jesus comes by one day and he says, stay away from me, Son of God. And Jesus calls the demons out of him into a herd of pigs, and the herd of pigs runs off of a cliff. It's an amazing story. You got to read it all. We pick it up in Mark chapter 5, verse 16 through 20. And it says, those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. See, he's fine. Jesus is healed and Jesus is taking the demons out of him. He is fine. He's walking, talking just like everybody, and he's going, Jesus, please let me go with you. I will tell people about what you have done. I love this. Jesus didn't let him go, but said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. I'm going to give you a little Greek right here. Decapolis means 10 cities. I'm getting smarter day by day. And here's what it means. He went around, imagine it like this. You live in Surprise, it's El Mirage, it's Youngtown, it's Waddell, it's Litchfield Park, it's a little bit of Glendale. He went all around the area that he lived, talking about how much Jesus had done in his life. So let's think about that for a second. Why would it be easier to get in the boat? Are you kidding me? Do you know what those people said? Oh, you were the dude who used to cut yourself. You see those scars? I remember when you were crazy. Yeah, you're cool now, but I don't know. What if you change again? And he was probably saying, Jesus, get me out of here. Take me to another place. I can see him like, he's kind of that TBN preacher. He's like, dude, I was in, and he's got sweat, and he's like, I was in the cemetery, and Jesus got these demons out of me, and my life has been changed. And he's like, it would be good, huh? And he's like, nope, you're staying with your family. You're staying with the people you know. And that's rough because they know you. I mean, think about it. When we have to tell our family about Jesus and they know us. They know my college years. They financed my college years. That was a bad choice. But they know us. And Jesus said, stay here. Here's your takeaway. You cannot commute to your mission. You cannot commute to your mission. Your mission is where you're at. It's where you're at. Jesus says, hey, go right around you and make a difference right there. Did you know the people who go on foreign missions, the best thing they say to do, don't come back. Go live there. Make your life there. Short-term missions are awesome, but you know who they change? You. Not the people you go and help. It changes you. When you want to change an area, you go and live there. You stay there. You burn the boats and say, I'm there. I'm making a difference. Jesus says, you have been healed. Tell everybody how much God has had mercy on you. Stay here. Stay here. You cannot commute to your mission. Jesus knew he had more of an impact on the people around him, his family. So do we. My son leaves for the Navy in just a few months. 52 days, I guess. Thank you. My prayer every day, God, did I teach him enough? Did I tell him enough? Does he know enough that he goes on his own? Did I waste too much time with basketball, with whatever? See, my family, it's crazy. Like, I think about doing great things for the world, but now when he's leaving, I can only think about how much time I can spend with him and what impact I can make on him. So we start making disciples with the people right around us, our families, our neighbors. I don't know any of mine, just to be real. I had one neighbor, she was pretty cool. She moved. I didn't actually know the day they left. They were just gone. Andrea had to tell me, I'm a super great neighbor. Yeah, another lady that I worked with for like 2 years was 4 doors down. Didn't know that until I saw that on Facebook. I'm a great neighbor. I think I need to start meeting my neighbors. Because you can't commute to your mission. If you're here to make disciples, we need to start with the people around us. So how do you do it? You get a bullhorn and a large sign. No? Okay, cool. Good. We're good. That's not a good plan. Invite them to dinner. Go on a hike. Go play pickleball. Whatever it is, you're sharing life with them. You share life. You hang out. If you like food and they like food, go eat food. I like food. If you invite me, I'll go eat food anytime with you guys. But that's what you do. And here's the other part. You start with people that are close to you, and you start with people you like. Because that makes sense, right? They'll probably like you. And they'll probably like hanging out with you. This comes to a shock to you. Not many of my friends are quiet. Right? I mean, they're not. They're not quiet. Because if they're quiet, I would talk all the time. And that is not good for anybody. It is not good for anybody. And so I have people that are kind of loud. And some people that are my friends are like, I gotta be louder than him sometimes. That's hard. But it's the truth. You do things with people that you have things in common with. You spend time with people. And here's the next thing you need to know about this making discipleship things with, is you spend time with people when the things are going good. If you have a chance to spend time with people, Spend time with people because no one wants to be pitied. No one wants to be a project. They want to be loved. They want to have relationships. See, it's too hard when things are going badly to all of a sudden you have 20 people going, hey, how can we help? They probably are genuine, but it's so much easier to know that's a person I ate dinner with and they love me. And now that something's wrong, they love me even when something's wrong and I'll help. Too many times we as Christians are like, I'm not going to hang out with you, but your life's falling apart. I gotcha. I'm going to come in. No, we need to be there during the good times too, because that's what makes life fun. It really does. People don't want to be projects. You need to love them because you are loved by God and He loves all people. And we live honest, loving lives together. And if you're learning about God, it will pour out in your own way. Fourth thing, beginning of this verse, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. We pick this story up in John 4. It says, then leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? They came out of the town and made their way towards them. As many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did. So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days. And because of his words, many more became believers. They said to the woman, we no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this man really is the Savior of the world. I love this story because if you don't know it, the Samaritan woman at the well is the first person that Jesus says, hey, I am the Messiah. And he shouldn't even have been talking to her. And then he even says, hey, let's talk about your husband. Oh yeah, that guy you live with, that's not your husband. And the 5 before, they weren't either. In other words, scandal. It's not good. This lady has not been living a good life. And Jesus is like, hey, I'm just going to tell you, you haven't been leading a good life. Love you. And you know what she does? She feels so loved that she runs back to her town. And you already know what everybody in the town says about her. They talk about her all the time, just not in front of her. And she says, guess what? This is what he said about me. You need to come and see him. It's amazing. I believe this story takes all of our fears out because, one, it tells us we can be real. One, it tells us that the mistakes we've made, God can use them. It's no problem. It's no problem. Jesus offers his love and forgiveness. Through all of her mess, she's moved and she goes and tells the town about her interaction. But I love this part because the Samaritans come and they say, Jesus, stay with us. Stay with us. Teach us. Hang out. We want to know more. And because of his words, many more became believers. It says, they said to the woman, we no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we've heard for ourselves, and we know this man really is the Savior of the world. All authority has been given to Jesus. You are not making disciples of yourself. You're making disciples of Jesus. And Jesus is in charge. See, you don't have to be afraid of messing it up. We cannot mess it up. Do you believe that you or I have the power to mess it up enough that the creator of the heaven and the earth can't go, oh yeah, we're going to fix that? That's not right. And see, we shouldn't, when we're making disciples, we shouldn't be pointing anybody towards us. Our first thing should be, hey, let's find that in the Bible. Let's look at that. What does God have to say about that? And we get to take all the pressure off of ourselves. The people asked Jesus to stay and learn from him. He did, and they no longer believed by what the woman said, but what Jesus said. One of my favorite things ever. I've talked to you guys about my 42-year-old son before, and he's not 42 anymore. He's older than that. But I love when I pointed him to Jesus. And now he comes back with verses. He's not asking me about, oh gosh, how do I handle this? He's like, hey Brian, I found this verse. Do you think this works? Is God saying the same thing that I think it's saying? Because it's not what I said anymore. All I did was point him to Jesus. Friends, we are not responsible for life change. We are not responsible for anything except for the introduction of Jesus. Who is this guy? I'm going to introduce you by loving you and supporting you and eating dinner with you and being friends with you and teaching you about that. All the rest of the stuff is up to the Holy Spirit. God's going to move in your lives. You answer any questions. You help any way you can. But the authority is not on you. We act like, oh, if I don't have the answer, they're going to burn in hell. Oh, no, that's up to God. It is up to us to talk to people and to love people and to introduce them who Jesus is and to be learning ourselves so we can teach them as best we can, but they are going to come back to Jesus. See what you do? You start talking to them. You go, hey, you know what? I got this really cool church that I'm going to. And hopefully I invite you on a weekend where Drew is speaking and not Brian. And it'll be a whole lot better. It'll be awesome. Come and see us. Brad's always singing, so that part will be great. But come on, the other part might be questionable at best. But you invite them. And then you go, oh man, we got these small groups that are starting and they're awesome. I'll tell you, Drew and I met for about 5 hours on Wednesday and we're planning new stuff. You guys got to get in them when we roll them out. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so cool. It's going to be different and it's going to be amazing. And you leaders can be nervous. Someone asks you to do different things. It's going to be great. But that's the thing. Let him have the authority. Let Jesus have the authority. It's his. We're just interacting. We're loving. We're pointing. So how do the stories end? How do the stories end? Well, you got to watch It's a Wonderful Life. It's an amazing. You got to check it out. I'll give you a quick little bit how this happened. When Mary finds out that George is $8,000 short, you know what she does? She jumps into action, starts talking to all the people that he has helped over the years. And they gladly gather money so he could stay out of prison. Even someone calling in money from Paris, France. In other words, he has changed the world and he's never left his small town. The disciples, well, I can't really tell you. The story's not over yet. You see in Acts chapter 2, the people, they eat together. They hang out together. They sell things so no one is in need. And they are joined in number by the day. They're a mega church by the end of the first day. And they're eating and they're hanging out together. And they're loving each other. And it says they have glad and sincere hearts. And I think that means they're living a wonderful life. And some travel to nearby areas and talk to people about the good news of Jesus. And some, but it's actually just a few, travel really long ways and teach about Jesus. And it happens, people teaching about Jesus in their houses, in their neighborhoods, in their cities, in the state around them for year after year, generation after generation. God's church keeps expanding and growing, and it goes around the world. And that's where our story comes into. You see, because of the disciples, we're standing here today. Because someone discipled them, and someone discipled them, and someone discipled them, and someone influenced us for Jesus. And now, if we take this great commission, it is our choice. Will we be the next generation to take the great commission seriously and go and teach people about Jesus, baptizing them and teaching them to obey all that he has commanded us? I can't tell you how exactly it'll end on earth, but I can tell you what happened at the end of our lives. When we placed our faith in Jesus and we've lived a life serving God and we've lived a life to the fullest, bringing the news of Jesus Christ to as many people as will listen, one day you will hear the Creator of the heaven and earth say, well done, good and faithful servant. And it all stems on what kind of life we want to live. If we follow this verse, we can live a wonderful life sharing the story of Jesus with others around us. Not in weird ways, in the way that he's empowered us to. In the way that our personality flows from. Yours is going to be different than mine. But we all have different people we influence, but we need to influence them for Jesus. It's what we're called to do. Jesus has the authority, and he's telling us we need to do it. I need to follow that authority. Let's pray. Hey God, so many of us are so trapped thinking about when we get there, the bigger house, the new car, whatever it is. And we miss the amazing things around us. Lord, I ask you as this year starts, that we focus on the people around us, that we focus on making disciples, which is a fancy word for learning about you and sharing your love and your grace and helping other people learn about you. God, I ask you to each of us to walk out and to not think we have to go to far ends of the earth. But God, I ask you to be with the people that have done that. That is an amazing step. But those of us who are called to stay here, help us to not just talk about the weather, to not just talk about things that are fleeting, but to truly build relationships with people that we can share your love and we can share your grace, and that we can change the world with your help. God, we may never have to leave our neighborhood. What if we could change our neighborhood? And we would change the city, and we would change the state. But I ask you that it all ripples out, and we change the world for you. Make you famous. You're the hero of every story. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.